So I'm back. Wow. What am I gonna do today? We're going to talk about
Phantom of the Opera.
I read the novel, like the abridged children's version by Gaston Leroux when I was like 5. No. Yeah, around that actually. Probably like 8 or 9 or 7, I guess. Something like that. Anyway, I read some interesting things the other day, and I think I should express them. Oh, my hair. Lovely. Basically, what happens, if you don't know the story, is that it takes place in France, Paris to be exact. The Wikipedia says 1911. I think it was a bit earlier, personally. But it's been a while since I actually read the the novel, Opera Populaire. I'm going to talk about mainly the musical because it simplifies things. Everyone's rehearsing. La Carlotta, the main prima donna, the soprano, she is everything. She's great at singing. She's basically the star of the show. She is. What happens is that during their rehearsal, owner of the opera house, he comes, he goes, well, I'm out, guys, because I gotta retire. Peace. And, he leaves it in the hands of Andre, which is one of the characters that owns the opera house now, and Monsieur Firmin, which is also one of the other owners. And what happens is that they're like, okay, sing for us then. So, and basically what happens is they get introduced in Phantom of the Opera. Things go south because La Carlotta's like, I can't deal with this anymore, there's so much stress, gotta go, bye. So then, what happens, they have a full house, they can't just refund the whole thing, because that's a lot of money they have to refund. So what happens is that they're like, is there any understudy? And they're like, there's no understudy. What happens is that, so Christine Daae, the protagonist, she's like, okay. They're like, well, she can sing. And they're like, how? They're like, because I've been trained by the angel music, which later we know is the Phantom of the Opera.
Oh my god!
Regardless, she becomes the star of the show. While she's singing, the new patron of the opera house, the Vicomte de Chagny, known as Raoul, are childhood friends, Christine and Raoul, and they get reintroduced in this wacky coincidence.
They're like, oh my god, I remember you, let's go out to dinner.
Christine's like, yeah,
we can't really do that because,
angel music's pretty strict. I gotta get on that singing grind. Part of that singing grind is not going out with my guy friends and partying. Raoul goes, fuck you. He just disregards her completely. He treats her like a child, essentially, in the musical as well. Which is one of the things I'm going to point out, is that Raoul doesn't really, treat her like the adult she is.
He kind of just hangs on to that childhood nostalgia. And, it's like, they're still children. Which will come into play with another relationship, which happens now.
At this, after he leaves the room, Christine's like, well, can't do that. I have to tell him I can't really go. Then you hear the Phantom who goes, insolent fool, this brave young suitor. And he's like, no. You
are not going anywhere.
Maybe it's time that you really know who I am. So he kind of opens the double mirror and she's like, oh my shit.
It's a person?
But she's like entranced by this whole like seductive but mysterious atmosphere. While they sing a duet and he goes, sing my angel of music. all in all, it goes on to talk about the dynamic of, Christine, Phantom, and Raoul, essentially. The thing is, she is more comfortable with Raoul because not only does he have a normal face and no emotional baggage, she's the one that essentially is her Prince Charming and tries to get her out of everything, which, hindsight, you always want like a hero, right? If you're in the
1910s and you're kind of like, oh well,
the person I thought was my angel and coach turns out to be this guy with a deformed face who wants to keep me forever. That's the type of message, basically, the musical is trying to get across that the Phantom is doing. But it would be nice to take note of how when Christine and Raoul sing their love duet, All I Ask of You, the Phantom listens in. He takes that all in, and he's like, oh, my broken heart. Essentially, that's a time when we're supposed to feel bad for him. And most people do, because that's like, loss of love. You're not gonna... You lost the girl, basically. But the Phantom...
this dude...
He don't give up. No. That was when he destroyed the chandelier of the Opera Populaire. So he goes, okay, we're gonna go into hiding and write this fantastic opera with Christine as the main lead. He does that. In tragedy, you have creative inspiration. So he goes and does that. Christine and Raoul gets engaged secretly. And they're like, oh, we love the masquerade ball at the beginning of the year. After 6 months, they're like, oh, we're going to have this great party. Andre, Fermin are there, La Collarda. They're all there. They're like, oh my god. Thing is, Phantom reappears again. And he's like, oh, bitch, you thought it was gone. No way. He comes back and he's like, I want my salary. You don't think I don't know about secret engagement? He rips off the ring around her neck that was on a necklace. He rips it off and throws it away. He makes all these demands and he goes, yeah, she doesn't want to do the play because she knows that he's gonna come take her away. Raoul's like, but this is our only chance to really, capture the dude. Raoul doesn't listen. He doesn't get it, which is one of the other things that a post reminded me of. Out of like an effective point of view, Raoul is correct. This is the only way that you're really going to catch the Phantom. But in terms of like a romantic interest and as her hero, you should really note that you shouldn't really force someone to do that, especially if they're really, really uncomfortable with it. High chance of failure because the Phantom knows the entire opera house better than anyone. He's lived his entire life there on account of the backstory for the music. You can see why she's nervous. She does the role. And essentially what happens is that Phantom comes in, he kills one of the actors, one of the opera singers, and he takes their place. And the costume during that is this big hood. So he has his hood on. She doesn't know that it's him yet. But then when he's singing, at one point, she knows. And she's like, oh my god.
It's him.
We must go back to the beginning, when he first revealed himself to her. He is essentially her sexual awakening. This is because throughout the songs that he sings with her, there's sometimes a subtle underlying tone of sexual implication. You can feel the sexual tension. He treats her like an adult, basically. Not as a sexual object, but as someone who understands sexual themes, because she does. She's not a child anymore. But she's taken aback by it because of all his emotional baggage. She has a lot of emotional baggage as well. Because her dad died when she was young. She never really got over it. And, she's, like, scarred. So, what happened is that he starts singing All I Ask of You. Basically, the lyrics to when Christine and Raoul were singing. Now, they were on the roof that time. She thought that he couldn't hear them. but he did. So it's this tense moment of fear, but also conflict of self. Christine in this moment has an ultimatum basically. Go with the Phantom or essentially doom him. She dooms him. The story is written so that Christine ends up with the pretty rich boy, Vicomte de Changy, Raoul. What she does is she rips off his mask again in front of everyone, which is a douchey move, by the way. She gets taken away by the Phantom. The Phantom goes, he gets really mad because when he sings that song to her, the one that Raoul and her sang, it's a song of true love, of like professing that you're more than just a sexual object to me. You know, you're not here just to fulfill these fantasies of flesh. That's not what is going on. I live under an opera house. I'm creepy either way. You know, he has a deformed face, you know, so he obviously his social skills are lacking. He needed someone to help him, and Christine was that person he hoped that could help him. She was his chosen one, essentially. But he brings her down to his place again. And he's like, okay, so this is the point of no return. And she gets mad at him. They fight verbally, singing wise. Then Raoul shows up after seeking help from Madame Giry, who is the only other person who really knows Phantom from a young age. And she goes, well, be careful. Keep your hand at the level of your eyes. Because the Phantom is known for hanging people, like he did to Joseph Bouquet, which was one of the stage hands that managed all the rope. So Raoul goes, he's like,
Free her.
And then he's
Phantom's like, come in, sure. At this point, he's kind of just like pissed. They're all pissed. They're all angry and really caught up in their own feelings. They're not really thinking of the other party. And this is when Christine gets really manipulative. Because Raoul gets, you know, essentially caught up in rope. So Phantom can legit end him in that moment. He doesn't. He could have, but he doesn't. And he goes, you know, choose me or he dies. You know, and you know, how can you ask that of a person? How can you ask that of a person? So Christine goes, you lied to me all this time and you still expect me to choose you? Like, what the heck? And you can kind of see that from her perspective. But what she does next is like really, really messed up because she's first berating him. She's like, tears I could have shed for you out of pity, now I shed out of hate. And she keeps like saying, you're horrible, the distortion is not on your face, it's in your soul. And the audience, usually, the first time they see it, sides with the protagonist. They're like, yeah, how can you do this to her? But after like years of like watching and re-listening to this musical, you're kind of like,
jeez, Christine, you're the one that did this to him.
He gave everything to you. He made you who you are. And you repay him with tearing off his mask and then going, oh my god, you look horrible. And then not apologizing. And then at the end, when you want something from him, when you want Raoul to be safe, you go and kiss him. She kisses him. She kisses the Phantom out of pure manipulation in that moment to have him stop whatever he's doing. He snaps out of it and goes, what the hell am I doing? At the end of the day, he has a very soft heart, I feel. You know, he could have just killed Raoul either way and then just pushed Christine away. But he didn't. He let them both go. So sad. It really is. Just so tragic. And then he goes like, well, now it's the end. Like, I thought you were going to be everything. I thought this was going to be forever. It's like so sad. It's the end of the musical. He disappears. The two lovers go off. That's it. There's so many possibilities that could have stemmed from Christine's awakening of, you know, her own adulthood. And if Christine had chose to run away with Phantom's name is Erik, there's a lot of stuff that could have gone another way if she had chosen him. You can't help but think what would happen instead if she had chosen the one who basically recognizes her as an adult. He basically grew up with her. That's what I'm saying. Raoul knew her from her childhood because her father was a violin player, and Raoul's family was rich, so they employed him to play violin. That was the only reason he knew her. Phantom, on the other hand, recognized her for having musical talent. And without the Phantom, she wouldn't be able to sing. If she wasn't able to sing, she and Raoul never would have re-met when she was singing that night. Raoul would have never recognized her as a mere ballet dancer. He wouldn't get spared a second thought. It was because she was the star of that show that night that he ever really remembered her, Christine
Daae.
So everything really is credited to the Phantom. He should have given him more than just ripping off his mask and manipulating him at the end. And we never really know where the Phantom went. I guess that's why it's so acclaimed. People are either real
Fans of it, like, oh my god, it's such a great love story.
or they completely hate it because people think,
My god, what kind of story is this? It's so sad.
what? And I can see both sides of it, but I appreciate it for the tragedy that it is. It's not a real romantic story because it's not an act of heroism that saves the protagonist and her love interest. It's a split second of what the Phantom got. He really wanted Christine.
He didn't really care if she wanted to have sexual activity with him.
Because he said, like, his face denied him the pleasures of the flesh. I don't think he really cares.
Because think about it, he's been down there for like how many years? Does he really lack anything? I'm sure he doesn't really mind if she doesn't do stuff with him.
I mean, he liked her for who she was. And the story doesn't really give us a lot of Christine's personal attributes. The story really focuses on the Phantom, actually, and how, he spent his entire life training her. And in the end, he got nothing. He professed his love in front of like a whole bunch of people, and she ripped his mask off. But it's a good reminder that things don't go your way. Things don't end up happy all the time. People don't fall in love just because you sacrifice a lot of things for them. The investment of your effort provided no fruition. But all in all,
what a story. Truly.
Someone who's never been shown compassion by the world, in the end was never shown compassion by the person he wanted it most from. He didn't want it from Raoul, he didn't want it from the world, he wanted it from Christine.
Because she was the only one that mattered. No one else did.
And we're so focused on Christine and Raoul and their whole love complex. I'm not saying Raoul doesn't have great music in this piece. He does. He has one of the best harmonies, actually. I think it gets so often overlooked is that how much the Phantom gets betrayed in this. You'd give anything for them because that's all you'll ever know. So I feel like Christine could have gotten more character development if she was indeed with the Phantom. And in the end, what could Raoul offer her except a way out of the opera house? That was legit it. What is she gonna get out of it? What?
A marriage? A normal life?
That's probably what she wanted. We could talk about who's at fault, but at the end of the day, they were all victims somehow. It's just an overall tragic story.
The only critique I have of this,
Phantom and Christine take advantage of the vibratos too much, and they drag it out, and it makes it sound so redundant. And as a musical point of view, it's like, you don't need that many vibratos. Don't do that. Because that doesn't sound great, it makes people get tired. It just
gets annoying.
I mean, that's like really just my rant on Phantom of the Opera as a whole. More content is coming. I don't know my upload schedule yet because school is imminent. I mean, not really imminent, but it feels imminent.
Peace out, Earthlings.